Today's very important question. How do you make faster, more effective and more substantial progress on the guitar in the shortest amount of time possible? Today I'd like to show you my personal most effective practice approach ever. This one saved me many years of working on the wrong exercises, and I think it will be very beneficial for your personal guitar progress as well. Before we start, this video is not just an abstract mindset explanation or something like that. I also prepared a super effective exercise for you that you can use in your next practice routine, and this one will take your shredding skills to the next level immediately as soon as you start working on it. So let's not waste any more time and check out what this is all about. If you followed my content here on YouTube or on Instagram, for example, you know that I'm a big fan of working with practice plans. I made a couple of videos on that already, but for this one I'd like to get more practical. I found one very special practice approach that made it possible for me to make quite a lot of progress in the last couple of years, and not a lot of players know about this helpful trick or actively work with it in their practice routine. And this trick is called effectively combining technique and theory. Sadly, we don't have 24 hours every single day to work on our guitar skills, so one day I thought to myself, why not combine the most important technique and theory topics in my practice routine in different exercises? That way I can make substantial progress every day in both sectors, and the technique exercises don't really end up to be too mechanical. That way I wouldn't be able to use them in a practical context. And the theory topics I want to improve as a player are less abstract, and it doesn't feel like studying with a textbook for an exam. Combining technique and theory correctly in your practice routine is a big focus of my online courses and of my lessons on Patreon. And for this lesson I'd like to give you a little taste and an example on how to get started. The following exercise is an amazing workout for your alternate picking and for building speed. So it's the perfect shredding exercise to have in your practice plan for the next couple of weeks. But simultaneously it will also really help you with visualizing 3 of the very most important shred scales across the neck. It also has a big focus on breaking free from those small scale boxes you find yourself trapped in when you're improvising or playing guitar solos. And you will immediately understand my personal system of learning and visualizing scales across the neck, because in a lot of cases you just have to change one note in very popular scales to get much more exotic and interesting sounds. So enough talk, here's the exercise we're working on today. Okay, so this was quite fast already. This was close to the end result when it comes to the picking speed and alternate picking workout aspect of this exercise. Let's slow it down right now so you get a better view and understanding of what we are working on today. As always, you can download the tabs, guitar profiles and really helpful video play-along files for all the exercises in this lesson on patreon.com/BERNTH. Over there you can download these super helpful files for every single YouTube lesson that I published here so far. And I also give personal coaching, help and assistance to all VIP Club members concerning their technique or progress on the instrument. So as you could see, we are working with alternate picking right here. So a continuous pattern of downstroke, upstroke, downstroke, upstroke and so on. So there's no economy picking approach in there. And we are only working on 2 strings, on the D string and on the G string. So from a mechanical aspect, this is a great exercise for switching between 2 different strings when it comes to fast alternate picking. This is a skill you will need very often when you're shredding, so it's very important to master it. And there's one small trick when it comes to that, and this one is once again the angle of your pick. So when it comes to the picking angle for this exercise, I can't really recommend an angle like that, because when I start playing right now with this kind of angle, I'm stuck right now between the G and the B string in this area right here, and I would have to jump over the G string to be in the right position for the next stroke on the D string. But when I change my angle like that, to over exaggerate it real quick, my pick is moving away from the guitar and not kind of into the guitar, stuck between those 2 different strings. And when I continue playing with this angle, it's actually really beneficial for the next string transition as well, from the D string back to the G string. So So once again, a slow comparison between those two angles. Angle number 1 would look like that. And this is angle number 2. That feels much easier immediately. But when it comes to music theory, it's actually really interesting what we're playing right here. We're actually playing the E minor scale ascending on the neck, playing the notes E, F sharp, G, A, B, C and D. And the cool thing right here that allows for some really creative shredding patterns is that we're not playing a scale box up and down, but we're ascending on 2 different strings with those 3 note per string patterns. And thinking horizontally like that, as soon as you can visualize the scale all across the neck on 2 different strings, for example, is also really helpful when you're improvising or writing guitar solos. Since you don't feel trapped in one position anymore, you can quickly switch between different positions and ascend across the neck. And of course, this is extremely helpful in a practical context. Before we are adding the next level of challenge to this exercise, I want you to focus on the notes that you're playing when you're working on this exercise. Please don't just remember those individual patterns and where you have to put your fingers. Also learn and think about the notes that you're playing right here. That way you can easily transpose it later on. And that way you can also work on the really cool theory trick I want to show you with this exercise today. So after I worked on this first variation of the exercise for quite some time, I got a good feeling for the alternate picking motion, for the switching between the 2 different strings. And it also became much easier for me to visualize the scale horizontally like that. But an easy way to add even more benefits to this exercise is switching between different scales when you're doing this. In case you watched the video that I posted on the modes recently, you know that we only have to change one note to get from E minor or E Aeolian to E Phrygian. By the way, around 60% of you guys and girls watching my videos are not subscribed to the channel yet. That means you keep missing a lot of videos and a lot of knowledge you need to make the most amount of progress on the instrument on a daily basis. So if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, make sure to do that right now to never miss another video lesson again. So just as a super quick reminder from the video that I posted on the modes, I only have to change one note to get from E minor to E Phrygian. I have to lower the second scale degree, which means I have to turn F sharp into F. All the rest of the notes of those scales are completely identical, and that really blew my mind back then. When I started out, I thought that learning new scales always means sitting down with the instrument and learning for weeks where to put your fingers. But in reality, it turns out you only have to make minor adjustments to get from one scale to the next one, and they are super easy to memorize once you memorize the fundamental scale right here across the neck, the natural minor scale. So to add another challenging theory spin to this awesome alternate picking workout, I could switch from E natural minor to E Phrygian, and I am not allowed to look at a scale diagram or cheat by searching for the E Phrygian scale on the internet. I have to manually lower every single F sharp to F in all those scale positions. All the rest of the notes stay the same, and that way I'm training the very important skill on quickly switching from natural minor to Phrygian whenever I need it in my improvised takes or in my guitar solos. Here's how that variation of the exercise sounds like. So as you could see, it's pretty much almost the same exercise, but we're turning F sharp into F in every single position. That means we're not playing the E minor scale anymore, we're playing the E Phrygian scale. So once again, to quickly summarize the benefits, when you work on this exercise in your practice routine, you're working on your alternate picking, you're working on your picking speed, pushing that speed a bit further every single day. You're working on switching between those different strings. You're working on visualizing scales horizontally across the neck like that and not just thinking in scale boxes. And you're training the super important skill of switching between different scales by just changing small details in them. For example, changing F sharp to F to get from minor to Phrygian. And of course, you can continue working on this more and more in case you want to learn different scales. The final example I prepared for today's lesson is the E harmonic minor scale. This one is once again very closely related to the natural minor scale. Once again, we only have to change one note, but we are not changing F sharp this time. This note stays unharmed. Instead, we are raising the 7th note in the scale, so we are raising D to D sharp. Once again, I'm not allowed to look up the harmonic minor scale on the internet. I have to focus on the notes that I'm playing, and every time I would play D, I'm raising it to D sharp. Here's how this variation of the exercise sounds like. So I suddenly get a really cool dark and exotic sound out of this scale, and by practicing like this I can easily apply that sound when I'm improvising or when I'm writing guitar solos, since I don't have to think in those complicated systems like the natural minor scale, the harmonic minor scale, the Phrygian scale all across the neck. I'm actually just thinking in those parallels, and I'm just thinking about the notes that I have to change. And that means I don't have to switch between minor and harmonic minor, thinking in those two completely separated systems. I could really just quickly raise D to D sharp in a short lick to just get that small harmonic minor flavor in my guitar solo. And understanding and utilizing those easy parallels will take your sound and your playing to the next level. So when you start working on this exercise in your practice routine, or hopefully right now after watching this video, please just start out with the first variation of the exercise with the E natural minor scale. Think about the notes that you're playing and also focus on the technical execution of the exercise, on the motion, on the picking angle. Make every single note audible, start slow, and think about the notes that you're playing, and don't just remember where to put your fingers or thinking those shapes and patterns. And once you completed the fundamental phase of this exercise, you can start working on all kinds of different scales. I would recommend starting out with Phrygian and harmonic minor, because you need them very frequently in a practical context when it comes to metal and shred guitar solos. So when you keep working on this for around 10 to 15 minutes every single day in your daily practice routine, you can change the scales every single week. For example, next week you could work with the major scale and change that to Lydian, or you can work on melodic minor that way, or complete the modes and focus on mixolydian, anything you would like to improve. And of course, I also want you to use different string pairs when you continue working on this. For example, pairing the low E string and the A string, the B string and the E string, and so on. So I really hope that you will work on this system of combining technique and theory effectively in your next practice routine. Aside from seeing a lot of progress when it comes to your guitar playing, you will also be more motivated to start your practice routine every single day, because you're making your technique exercises less boring, less mechanical, and much more practical. And you're also making your theory exercises and the music theory aspects you want to improve much more musical, interesting, and exciting that way. In the end, make sure to leave a like in case you enjoyed this lesson. That always really helps me out a lot. And also don't forget to subscribe to join this guitar community today. If you have any questions about this system or anything else, please don't hesitate and just leave a comment below this video. And one more final thing, in case you want to support this channel and the creation of more videos like that, you can also check out the merch on Teespring. As always, I left a link below this video. Thanks so much to every single player that ordered some merch from the store already. That really means a lot to me. So thanks a lot for tuning in today. I had a lot of fun nerding out with you today about technique, theory, and shredding. I will hopefully see you again in the next video. All the best and have a lot of fun working on this cool exercise.